Welcome to Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. In Gaza, at least 44 Palestinians, including 15 children, have been killed in 3 days of an Israeli military bombardment before a ceasefire began late Sunday. At least 350 Palestinians were wounded. Palestinians accuse the Israeli government of launching the attack in an effort to build political support ahead of November's Israeli elections. Palestinian children who survived the Israeli assault describe horrifying situations. This is a 9-year-old girl named Lin Matar, who was pulled from the rubble.
I was at my grandfather's house when suddenly the rubble started to fall on us, and we started screaming and the neighbors came to rescue us. We don't want to keep going through this. Every year there are strikes, killings of children, and injuries. I am happy that I am alive because I always had a dream to fulfill, which is to become a doctor and help people in such times, to help them because I have been through many problems like this.
Israel defended the bombardment of Gaza, saying it was a preemptive operation targeting militants with the group Islamic Jihad. 2 senior Islamic Jihad commanders were killed in the attack. During the bombardment, Israel also cut off fuel to Gaza, leading to blackouts across the region. We'll go to Gaza after headlines. The Senate's passed a sweeping $739 billion bill to address the climate crisis, reduce drug costs, and establish a 15% minimum tax for large corporations. Vice President Kamala Harris cast the deciding vote Sunday after every Republican in the Senate voted no. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer described the legislation as the boldest climate package in U.S. history.
The Senate has now passed the most significant bill to fight the climate crisis ever. And it's going to make a difference to my grandkids. The world will be a better place for my grandchildren because of what we did today. And that makes me feel very, very good.
Many climate groups praised the Senate for taking action, but said far bolder steps are needed to address the climate emergency. Varshini Prakash, the founder of the Sunrise Movement, tweeted, "This isn't the bill my generation deserves, but it's the one we can get. It must pass to give us a fighting chance at a livable world." She went on to write, quote, "Youth leaders to Congress, pass this bill, then get back to work." The Senate bill aims to cut U.S. carbon emissions by 40% by the end of this decade, but it also includes controversial provisions added to win support from West Virginia's Joe Manchin and Arizona Senator Kyrsten Sinema. At Manchin's request, the bill makes it easier for the pipeline industry to win approval of new projects, including the proposed Mountain Valley Pipeline in West Virginia. The bill could also lead to more drilling on public lands and waters and expand tax credit for fossil, coal, and gas-burning plants. The Center for Biological Diversity has described the bill as a, quote, climate suicide pact. Meanwhile, at the insistence of Senator Sinema, Democrats agreed to drop a proposal to raise taxes on private equity and hedge fund firms. The bill will also allow Medicare to begin negotiating for some prescription drugs, which could lower prices for millions. But during negotiations over the bill, Senate Republicans blocked an effort to place a $35 monthly cap on insulin for most Americans. History was made in Colombia Sunday when Gustavo Petro, the former guerrilla, was sworn in as Colombia's first president, leftist president. Francia Marquez Mina, who also made history, becoming Colombia's first Afro-Colombian vice president. Petro is a former M19 guerrilla who went on to serve as a senator and mayor of the nation's capital, Bogota. Marquez is a longtime Afro-Colombian environmental activist, land and water defender. In 2018, she won the Goldman Environmental Prize. During his inaugural address, President Petro vowed to fight inequality and climate change and to push for peace. He also condemned the U.S.-led war on drugs.
It
is time for a new international convention that accepts that the war on drugs has completely failed, that it has killed 1 million Latin Americans, many of them Colombians, during the last 40 years, and that it leaves 70,000 North Americans dead by overdose each year from drugs that are not produced in Latin America. The war on drugs strengthened mafias and weakened states.
Supporters of Gustavo Petro and Francia Marquez celebrated what they saw as a new beginning for Colombia, which has been ruled by the elite and right-wing forces for generations. This is Manuel Ponton speaking in Bogota.
It is the beginning of democracy in Colombia because it is the first time there will be a government of popular origin. It is the first time that people feel happy about the election of a president, and for the first time we feel that there is a real transition towards guaranteeing citizens' rights.
We'll have more on Colombia later in the broadcast. Tensions remain high in the Taiwan Strait, where China has extended its largest-ever military drills in the region following last week's visit to Taiwan by U.S. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi. On Sunday, China ended live-fire exercises, but it's continuing to carry out drills simulating anti-submarine attacks and sea raids. In addition, China suspended talks with the United States on a number of issues, including the climate crisis, anti-drug efforts, and military relations, due to what it called Pelosi's, quote, egregious provocations. The International Atomic Energy Agency's warning of a potential nuclear disaster at Zaporizhzhia, Europe's largest nuclear plant. Ukraine and Russia are accusing each other of attacking the nuclear site twice since Friday. Russia, which has occupied the plant since early March, said shelling by Ukrainian forces could have catastrophic consequences for Europe. Ukraine claims it was Russian forces that carried out missile strikes on the nuclear plant in an effort to disconnect it from Ukraine's electrical grid. Local residents called for an end to fighting near the site, which is home to 6 nuclear reactors and thousands of tons of highly radioactive materials.
As city residents, we call on the Russian army and the Ukrainian armed forces to avoid open fighting in the area around Enerhodar and within a 20-kilometer zone around the nuclear power plant. We're talking about the safety of the entire planet, not just about the safety of Ukraine, Belarus, and Russia, and nearby foreign countries.
Back in the United States, Indiana's adopted a near-total ban on abortions, becoming the first state to approve new laws restricting reproductive rights since the U.S. Supreme Court struck down Roe v. Wade in June. On Friday, Indiana's Republican governor signed the abortion ban just minutes after the Republican-dominated Senate approved the legislation. It's set to take effect September 15th. The new law outlaws abortions at the moment of conception, with exceptions only in cases of rape, incest, or medical emergency. Those providing abortion care face a $10,000 fine and up to 6 years in prison. The new law has drawn fire from Indiana's Chamber of Commerce and some of the state's largest employers. On Saturday, a spokesperson for Eli Lilly condemned the abortion ban and said in response the pharmaceutical giant is looking to expand its operations outside Indiana. In New Mexico, police say the shooting death of a South Asian immigrant in Albuquerque may be linked to the killings of 3 other Muslim men over the past 9 months. The body of Naeem Hussain was found late Friday, just hours after he attended the funerals of Pakistani immigrants Mohammed Afzal Hussain and Aftab Hussain at the Islamic Center of New Mexico. Those 2 were killed last week in what police described as separate ambush-style shootings. A 4th South Asian Muslim man, Mohammed Ahmadi, was killed in November. Albuquerque Police Chief Harold Medina said Saturday the killings are likely related.
Our city suffered another tragic loss overnight. Another young man who was part of the Muslim community was murdered. As with the previous 3 murders we mentioned on Thursday, there's reason to believe this death is related to those shootings.
Police haven't named any suspects, but on Sunday released images of a Volkswagen named as a vehicle of interest in the killings. On Twitter, President Biden called the killings horrific and said he's angered and saddened by them. A jury in Austin, Texas, Friday ordered far-right conspiracy theorist and InfoWars host Alex Jones to pay $45 million in compensatory damages to the parents of a Sandy Hook shooting victim. That's on top of more than $4 million in punitive damages Alex Jones was ordered to pay Thursday. For years, Jones spread conspiracy theories that the 2012 massacre in Newtown, Connecticut was a government hoax and that the Sandy Hook victims' families were paid actors, resulting in online harassment and death threats for those families. On Saturday, UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres traveled to Hiroshima to mark 77 years since the United States dropped the world's first atomic bomb on that Japanese city. Guterres warned the risk of nuclear war is once again on the rise.
Keep the horrors of Hiroshima in view of all times, recognizing there is only one solution to the nuclear threat, not to have nuclear weapons at all.
Climate news, California's Death Valley National Park received a year's worth of rainfall within just 3 hours last Friday, triggering flash floods that left about 1,000 people temporarily stranded. A study by the UN's Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change found such monsoon rain events are becoming more intense as a result of the climate crisis. Meanwhile, Iran has just recorded its hottest ever temperature in the month of August. On Friday, the southwestern city of Avaz hit 53 degrees Celsius, nearly 130 degrees Fahrenheit. The heat index was a staggering 142 degrees. And those are some of the headlines. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman.